At our family Valentine's dinner, my mother-in-law stood up with champagne and announced that my husband had found true love with his new girlfriend. She didn't know I owned the building where they had been conducting their secret affair for months. I am Elena Vasquez, and this is the story of how betrayal became my greatest opportunity to reclaim my power and transform my entire life. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The crystal chandelier in the Fairmont Hotel's private dining room cast prismatic rainbows across the white tablecloth as I adjusted the collar of my burgundy dress for the third time that evening. February 14th had always been my favorite holiday, not because of commercial romance or expensive gifts, but because it represented the possibility of love triumphing over ordinary circumstances. At 34 years old, I had built my life around that belief, investing everything I possessed into relationships and commitments that I thought would provide security and happiness. My husband David sat across from me, his attention focused on his phone rather than the carefully orchestrated family gathering that his mother Patricia had insisted on hosting for Valentine's Day. After 8 years of marriage, I had grown accustomed to his distracted behavior during family events, attributing it to work stress, from his demanding position as a marketing director at a technology consulting firm. Patricia Morrison had always been particular about family traditions, and this annual Valentine's dinner represented her attempt to maintain elegant celebrations that reflected the social status she had worked decades to achieve. The private dining room accommodated 12 people comfortably, though only 8 family members had gathered for this particular celebration. Patricia had selected the venue specifically for its reputation and exclusivity, ensuring that our family gathering would take place in surroundings that reinforced her position within Chicago's professional social circles. The menu featured seasonal specialties prepared by award-winning chefs, and the wine selection represented Patricia's extensive knowledge of premium vintages that complemented formal dining experiences. I had arrived at the hotel directly from my real estate office, where I had spent the afternoon reviewing financial projections for the property management company I had been building for the past 6 years. Morrison Properties had grown from a single small apartment building into a portfolio of 12 commercial and residential properties throughout the greater Chicago area, generating monthly rental income that exceeded what most people earned annually from traditional employment. The business represented years of careful investment, strategic planning, and personal sacrifice that had positioned me as one of the most successful independent property owners in the region. But my professional achievements remained largely invisible to David's family, who viewed real estate investment as a hobby rather than serious business enterprise. Patricia had never shown interest in understanding the complexity of property management or the financial acumen required for successful real estate development. David himself rarely discussed my work with his colleagues or family members, preferring to focus conversations on his own career advancement and professional networking activities. This dynamic had created an interesting situation where I possessed significantly more financial resources and business expertise than anyone else at family gatherings, yet remained treated as David's supportive spouse, rather than an accomplished professional in my own right. The disparity between my actual capabilities and my perceived role within the family structure had been growing more pronounced over the past several years, particularly as my property portfolio expanded and generated increasing returns on investment. The evening began with Patricia's customary toast to family unity and shared values, accompanied by her detailed commentary on the wine selection and dining venue. She had always possessed a talent for transforming simple family meals into elaborate productions that showcased her sophisticated tastes and cultural refinement. David's younger sister Amanda and her husband Robert participated in the conversation with the enthusiasm that Patricia expected from family gatherings, discussing vacation plans and professional developments with the kind of animated engagement that characterized successful social interactions. I contributed to the conversation when appropriate, sharing updates about recent property acquisitions and rental market trends that demonstrated my growing expertise in real estate investment. But I noticed that these professional accomplishments received polite acknowledgement rather than genuine interest from family members who seemed more engaged by discussions of entertainment, travel, and consumer purchases than business development and financial strategy. The transition from pleasant family dinner to life-altering revelation occurred during the dessert course, when Patricia rose from her chair with the kind of deliberate formality that indicated a prepared announcement. She had always possessed a theatrical sense of timing that allowed her to command attention during important moments, and the dining room fell silent as she lifted her champagne flute and prepared to address the assembled family members. "I have something very special to share with everyone this evening," Patricia began, her voice carrying the confident authority that characterized her approach to family leadership. "This Valentine's Day represents a particularly meaningful celebration because someone at this table has finally discovered the true love that we all deserve to experience." The words created an expectant atmosphere as family members turned their attention toward Patricia, anticipating an announcement about engagements, pregnancies, or other positive developments that typically warranted formal presentations during holiday gatherings. David shifted uncomfortably in his chair, his expression revealing an anxiety that seemed disproportionate to the situation unless he possessed information that the rest of us lacked. "David has found his soulmate," Patricia continued, her smile radiating the kind of maternal satisfaction that accompanied major life milestones. "After years of searching for authentic connection and emotional fulfillment, he has discovered a relationship that brings him genuine happiness and personal growth." The confusion in the dining room was palpable as family members processed Patricia's announcement while glancing between David and me with obvious bewilderment. The logical assumption would have been that Patricia was referring to our 8-year marriage, but her phrasing and tone suggested something entirely different. David's face had turned pale, and his hands trembled slightly as he reached for his wine glass, with movements that betrayed extreme nervousness. "Sophia Chen has brought light and joy into David's life in ways that we never thought possible," Patricia announced, raising her champagne flute in a toast gesture. "Their love story represents everything beautiful about finding your true partner, and I could not be more thrilled to welcome her into our family as David's girlfriend and future wife." The silence that followed Patricia's announcement felt dense, with shock and disbelief, as the implications of her words settled over the dining room. Amanda dropped her dessert fork with a metallic clatter that echoed through the sudden quiet. Robert's mouth fell open in obvious astonishment. The elegant atmosphere of refined family celebration had been shattered by a revelation that transformed the entire evening from pleasant social gathering into devastating personal crisis. I sat motionless in my chair, my mind struggling to process information that seemed to defy logical comprehension. David had a girlfriend named Sophia Chen, whom Patricia had already welcomed into the family as his future wife. This relationship had apparently progressed to the point where Patricia felt comfortable making public announcements about wedding plans and family integration. The woman I had been married to for 8 years was discussing my husband's infidelity with the casual enthusiasm typically reserved for celebrating professional promotions or vacation plans. The betrayal represented multiple layers of deception that extended far beyond simple marital infidelity. David had not merely been having an affair. He had been conducting a parallel relationship that included his family's knowledge and approval, while maintaining the pretense of committed marriage during our daily interactions. Patricia had been complicit in this deception, treating my husband's girlfriend as a legitimate family member while hosting family dinners that included me as an unwitting participant in my own humiliation. But the most devastating aspect of this revelation was the realization that I had been living a completely false narrative about my own life and relationships. The marriage I had believed represented security and partnership was actually an elaborate facade that allowed David to maintain social respectability while pursuing his real romantic interests elsewhere. The family gatherings I had attended with genuine affection for Patricia and her children were actually performances where I played the role of the obsolete wife, who would eventually be replaced by someone younger and more appealing. David finally found his voice during the extended silence that followed his mother's announcement. "Mom, we talked about this. Tonight wasn't supposed to be about announcements." His words carried a tone of frustrated irritation rather than remorse or concern for my emotional state, suggesting that his primary concern was the timing of the revelation, rather than its impact on our marriage or my well-being. Patricia's response revealed the calculated nature of her decision to make this announcement during a family gathering that included me. "Darling, there is never a perfect time for these transitions, and Elena deserves to understand the situation so she can make appropriate plans for her future. Sophia has been patient long enough, and you both deserve to stop hiding your relationship from family members who support your happiness. The casual reference to appropriate plans for my future indicated that Patricia had already determined that our marriage was concluded, and that my primary responsibility was facilitating David's transition to his new relationship with minimal inconvenience to family harmony. The assumption that I would quietly cooperate with arrangements that prioritize David's romantic preferences over my own rights and interests revealed the extent to which I had been marginalized within the family structure. Amanda attempted to inject some diplomatic balance into the conversation by addressing me directly for the first time since Patricia's announcement. Elena, I am sure this is very difficult to process, and we want you to know that we care about your feelings during this transition. Her words were well-intentioned, but reflected the same assumption that my role was to accept and adapt to decisions that had been made without my consultation or consent. I remained silent throughout these exchanges, not because I lacked responses to offer, but because I was experiencing a profound recalibration of my understanding about the people and relationships that had defined my adult life. The family I had thought accepted and valued me had actually been tolerating my presence while actively supporting my replacement. The husband I had trusted with my emotional and financial security had been systematically deceiving me while building an alternative life that excluded me entirely. But underneath the shock and hurt, something else was beginning to emerge. A clarity about my own capabilities and resources that had been obscured by years of prioritizing other people's needs and expectations over my own interests and ambitions. The real estate portfolio that David's family dismissed as hobby activity represented genuine wealth and independence that most people never achieved through traditional employment or family support. As I sat in that elegant dining room listening to my mother-in-law celebrate my husband's infidelity, I began to realize that I possessed advantages and leverage that none of them understood or anticipated. Morrison Properties included residential and commercial buildings throughout Chicago, generating rental income that exceeded David's salary by substantial margins. More importantly, my business acumen and financial independence provided opportunities for creating consequences that would extend far beyond the personal realm of hurt feelings and broken relationships. The revelation at Valentine's dinner was not just about discovering marital betrayal. It was about recognizing that I had been underestimating my own power, while overestimating my dependence on relationships that provided neither security nor respect. The woman who had been dismissed as David's supportive spouse was actually a successful business owner with resources that could transform this devastating moment into an opportunity for justice and personal liberation. Patricia raised her champagne flute higher, apparently expecting other family members to join her toast to David's new relationship. To love, authentic connection, and the courage to pursue happiness regardless of social expectations. Her words were intended as a celebration of David's romantic freedom, but they would prove to be prophetic in ways that none of them could anticipate. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. I lifted my own glass slowly, meeting Patricia's expectant gaze with a composure that surprised me with its steadiness. The woman who had just announced my husband's affair while celebrating his future marriage to another woman had no idea that she was toasting the beginning of her own family's reckoning with consequences they had never imagined possible. The evening that began as a Valentine's celebration would mark the start of a transformation that would teach them all about the power of authentic connection and the courage required to pursue justice regardless of social expectations. They thought they were dealing with a woman who would quietly disappear to make room for David's new relationship. They were about to discover they had significantly underestimated who they were dealing with, and what I was capable of achieving when motivated by the pursuit of justice, rather than the preservation of relationships that had never deserved my loyalty or trust. The real story was just beginning, and they had given me everything I needed to ensure that truth and consequences would ultimately prevail over deception and betrayal. The drive home from the Fairmont Hotel occurred in complete silence, with David gripping the steering wheel as though it might provide stability in a situation that had fundamentally shifted beyond his control. The city lights blurred past the passenger window as I stared out at the Chicago skyline, my mind methodically processing the implications of Patricia's announcement, while maintaining an exterior calm that concealed the strategic thinking already beginning to take shape beneath my shock. David attempted conversation twice during the 20-minute journey to our Lincoln Park townhouse, offering explanations that focused on timing and circumstances rather than addressing the fundamental betrayal that had been revealed during what was supposed to be a family celebration. His words carried the tone of someone who had been caught in an uncomfortable situation, rather than someone who had systematically deceived his wife for an extended period while building an alternative life with another woman. The townhouse that we had purchased together 5 years earlier represented what I had believed was our shared investment in building a future together. The 3-story brick structure with its renovated kitchen and rooftop garden had been selected after months of careful consideration about neighborhood dynamics, property values, and long-term appreciation potential. I had contributed 60% of the down payment from profits generated by my growing real estate portfolio, viewing the purchase as both personal residence and sound financial investment that would benefit our marriage. But as David unlocked the front door and we entered the foyer with its polished hardwood floors and carefully selected artwork, I realized that this space represented something entirely different than I had previously understood. The home I had thought symbolized our partnership was actually a convenient base of operations that allowed David to maintain the appearance of committed marriage while conducting his real relationship elsewhere. Every detail of our shared living space suddenly appeared in a new context that revealed the extent of my own naivete about the reality of our marriage. The bedroom where we had slept together for years while David maintained emotional and physical intimacy with another woman. The kitchen where I had prepared meals for family gatherings that included discussions of his secret girlfriend's integration into his mother's social circle. The home office where David had conducted private phone conversations that I had assumed were work-related but now understood were probably personal communications with Sophia Chen. David disappeared into his study immediately upon our arrival, citing urgent work emails that required immediate attention despite the late hour on a national holiday. His retreat represented a familiar pattern of avoidance that I had previously attributed to professional responsibilities, but now recognized as a strategy for minimizing uncomfortable conversations about subjects he preferred not to address directly. I climbed the stairs to our bedroom with movements that felt mechanical and detached, as though I were observing someone else's actions from a distance while my mind continued processing information that challenged everything I had believed about my own life and relationships. The burgundy dress that I had selected specifically for the Valentine's dinner hung in the walk-in closet alongside professional attire that reflected my identity as a successful business owner, rather than simply David's supportive spouse. The contrast between my professional capabilities and my personal situation became starkly apparent as I changed into comfortable clothing and began to consider my actual position in this developing crisis. Morrison Properties had generated over $400,000 in rental income during the previous year, with profit margins that exceeded 40% after accounting for maintenance, property management, and administrative expenses. The business represented genuine wealth accumulation that provided financial independence regardless of marital status or family support systems. But the real estate portfolio extended beyond simple income generation into strategic asset accumulation that positioned me advantageously within Chicago's commercial and residential property markets. The 12 properties I owned included apartment buildings in rapidly appreciating neighborhoods, commercial spaces leased to established businesses with long-term contracts, and development opportunities that represented significant potential for future growth. More importantly, my 6 years of experience in property management had developed expertise in financial analysis, legal negotiations, tenant relations, and strategic planning that transferred effectively to other areas of business and personal decision-making. The skills required for successful real estate investment included market research, risk assessment, contract negotiation, and relationship management that prepared me for handling complex situations that required sophisticated problem-solving approaches. As I sat on the edge of our bed reviewing the evening's revelations, I began to recognize that the shock and hurt I was experiencing were actually obscuring a more significant realization about my own capabilities and resources. The woman who had been dismissed as David's supportive spouse possessed substantial advantages that none of his family members understood or anticipated. The financial independence provided by Morrison Properties meant that I could make decisions based on principles and long-term strategic considerations rather than immediate economic necessity. The business expertise I had developed through years of property management provided frameworks for analyzing situations, identifying leverage points, and developing plans that achieved desired outcomes through systematic implementation. But perhaps most importantly, the professional relationships I had built throughout the Chicago real estate community provided access to information, resources, and opportunities that extended far beyond my immediate property portfolio. Attorneys who specialized in real estate law, financial advisors who understood investment strategies, and other property owners who had faced similar challenges in their personal and professional lives. The revelation at dinner had been devastating on an emotional level, but it had also created an opportunity for applying business principles to personal circumstances in ways that could transform this crisis into a foundation for significant positive change. The betrayal that was intended to marginalize and dismiss me had actually revealed the extent to which I had been underestimating my own power, while overestimating my dependence on relationships that provided neither security nor respect. I retrieved my laptop from the home office and returned to the bedroom, where I began conducting research that would inform the strategic response I was already beginning to formulate. The first priority was understanding my legal position regarding marital assets, property rights, and divorce proceedings that would inevitably follow from Patricia's announcement and David's apparent commitment to building a future with Sophia Chen. The research process revealed that Illinois divorce law included provisions for property division that would protect my real estate investments, while potentially providing additional compensation for David's infidelity and deception. More importantly, the business expertise and financial resources I possessed would enable me to hire the most qualified legal representation available, rather than settling for attorneys who prioritized quick resolutions over optimal outcomes for their clients. But the legal dimension represented only one aspect of a situation that required comprehensive strategic thinking about multiple areas of potential leverage and consequence. The professional relationships David had built through his marketing career, the social connections that Patricia valued within Chicago's business community, and the financial arrangements that supported their lifestyle choices, all represented areas where my resources and expertise could create outcomes they had not anticipated when deciding to humiliate me during a family celebration. The most significant advantage I possessed was information that they did not know I had access to. Morrison Properties included commercial real estate throughout Chicago that provided insights into business operations, financial challenges, and strategic vulnerabilities that could become relevant in developing responses to their betrayal. The property management business had taught me to research tenants, analyze financial statements, and understand the economic foundations that supported various enterprises and lifestyle choices. David's technology consulting firm leased office space in a building owned by one of my business associates, providing access to information about their lease terms, payment history, and expansion plans that could become strategically useful. Patricia's interior design consulting business operated from a commercial space in a neighborhood where I owned rental properties, creating opportunities for understanding her client base, revenue streams, and financial stability that she would not expect me to possess. But beyond specific information about their professional activities, my 6 years in real estate had developed relationships with attorneys, accountants, investigators, and other professionals who specialized in handling complex personal and business situations that required sophisticated problem-solving approaches. The network of expertise I had built for managing Morrison Properties could be applied to ensuring that justice and consequences followed from their decision to betray and humiliate someone they had significantly underestimated. The transformation from shocked spouse to strategic analyst was occurring more rapidly than I had expected, driven by the recognition that this crisis represented an opportunity to reclaim personal power that I had gradually surrendered through years of prioritizing other people's needs and expectations over my own interests and ambitions. The woman who had been dismissed as David's supportive spouse was actually a successful business owner with resources that could transform this devastating moment into a foundation for justice and personal liberation. As the hours passed and David remained secluded in his study, I developed a preliminary framework for addressing this situation that extended beyond simple divorce proceedings into comprehensive consequences that would address the multiple dimensions of betrayal and deception I had discovered. The approach would require careful planning, strategic implementation, and coordination of various resources and relationships that I had access to through my professional activities. The first phase would involve gathering additional information about the scope and timeline of David's relationship with Sophia Chen, Patricia's role in facilitating and concealing their affair, and the impact this deception had on financial and legal arrangements that affected my interests. The investigation would need to be conducted discreetly to avoid alerting them to my strategic response, while ensuring that I possessed complete understanding of the situation before taking action. The second phase would involve assembling the professional team necessary for addressing legal, financial, and business implications of their betrayal. The attorneys, accountants, and advisors who had supported Morrison Properties would provide expertise for ensuring that divorce proceedings protected my assets while maximizing consequences for David's infidelity and deception. Additional specialists would be retained for addressing specific aspects of the situation that required expert knowledge or specialized skills. The third phase would involve implementing comprehensive responses that created appropriate consequences, while positioning me advantageously for future personal and professional development. The goal was not simply revenge or retaliation, but justice that addressed the harm they had caused, while ensuring that my own interests were protected and advanced through strategic action rather than emotional reaction. The planning process continued through the early morning hours as I developed detailed strategies for each phase of the response, while maintaining the composure and clarity necessary for making sound decisions during an emotionally challenging period. The shock and hurt that had initially overwhelmed me were being transformed into focused determination to ensure that truth and consequences prevailed over deception and betrayal. By dawn, I had established a comprehensive framework for addressing this crisis that leveraged every advantage I possessed while addressing every dimension of the situation that required strategic attention. The woman who had entered the Fairmont Hotel as David's supportive spouse would emerge from this experience as someone who had reclaimed her power and transformed betrayal into an opportunity for extraordinary personal and professional growth. The silent assessment was complete. The strategic response was ready to begin. They had given me everything I needed to ensure that justice would ultimately prevail, and they had no idea what they had set in motion through their decision to humiliate someone they had so completely underestimated. The real education was about to begin, and I would be the one providing the lessons about consequences, accountability, and the true meaning of authentic power in relationships and business alike. The following Monday morning marked the beginning of what would become the most methodical and transformative investigation of my life. As David left for his office with the same routine he had maintained for years, completely unaware that his comfortable world of deception was about to be systematically dismantled, I prepared to implement the strategic framework I had developed during those sleepless hours after Patricia's devastating announcement. The first step required establishing a secure workspace that would allow me to conduct comprehensive research without alerting David to the scope of my activities. I converted the spare bedroom in our townhouse into a temporary command center, installing additional security measures on my computer systems and establishing separate communication channels that would protect sensitive information from accidental discovery. The methodical approach I had learned through years of property management would now be applied to investigating the most significant personal crisis of my adult life. Morrison Properties had taught me that successful investigations required systematic documentation, careful verification of information, and strategic thinking about how individual pieces of evidence contributed to comprehensive understanding of complex situations. The skills I had developed for researching potential real estate investments, analyzing tenant backgrounds, and evaluating market conditions would now be applied to understanding the full scope of David's betrayal and the opportunities it created for achieving justice and personal liberation. The initial research phase focused on establishing a complete timeline of David's relationship with Sophia Chen, beginning with digital evidence that could provide insights into when their affair had started and how it had evolved into the serious relationship that Patricia had celebrated during our Valentine's dinner. The investigation required careful analysis of credit card statements, phone records, travel expenses, and other financial documentation that would reveal patterns of behavior inconsistent with committed marriage. The financial records revealed a disturbing pattern that extended much further back than I had initially anticipated. David had been making regular cash withdrawals in amounts that exceeded normal spending patterns for over 18 months, with particularly large withdrawals occurring before holiday weekends and during periods when I had been traveling for business conferences related to real estate investment. The timing suggested that these withdrawals were funding activities that required cash payments to avoid creating traceable records of his expenditures. Hotel charges in downtown Chicago appeared on our joint credit card statements dating back 14 months, always booked for single occupancy but occurring on dates when David had claimed to be working late at the office or attending professional networking events. The locations were consistently upscale establishments that would appeal to someone conducting a sophisticated affair with a woman he hoped to impress through expensive experiences and elegant surroundings. Restaurant charges provided additional evidence of systematic deception that revealed David's commitment to maintaining two completely separate romantic relationships simultaneously. Expensive dinners at intimate establishments known for romantic atmosphere appeared regularly on our credit card statements, but always on evenings when David had claimed to be attending client meetings or industry conferences that required professional entertaining. The frequency and cost of these meals indicated a relationship that extended far beyond casual infidelity into serious romantic partnership that required significant financial investment. But the most damaging evidence emerged from David's personal phone records, which I accessed through our shared family plan account, that provided detailed information about call patterns, text message frequency, and data usage that revealed the extent of his communication with Sophia Chen. The records showed that David and Sophia had been in contact multiple times daily for over 16 months, with conversation durations that indicated intimate personal discussions rather than brief professional or casual communications. The phone data also revealed that David had been deleting his text message history regularly, a behavior that suggested deliberate concealment of evidence that could expose the nature and scope of his relationship with Sophia. The systematic deletion of communications indicated that David understood his behavior represented significant betrayal of our marriage and was taking active steps to prevent discovery of his deception. Geographic data from David's phone location services provided the most comprehensive picture of his systematic dishonesty about his activities and whereabouts during our marriage. The data showed regular visits to an address in River North that I quickly identified as Sophia Chen's apartment building through cross-referencing property records and tenant information available through my real estate industry databases. David had been spending substantial time at Sophia's residence during periods when he had claimed to be working late, attending business meetings, or traveling for professional conferences. This discovery led to a more detailed investigation of the River North property where Sophia lived, revealing information that would prove strategically crucial for the comprehensive response I was developing. The building was a luxury high-rise with premium rental rates that would require substantial income to afford, particularly for a single person maintaining residence without roommate or family financial support. The financial requirements for living in such an expensive property raised questions about Sophia's background and resources that warranted additional investigation. Professional database searches revealed that Sophia Chen worked as a graphic designer for a digital marketing agency with offices in the Loop District, earning a salary that would normally preclude residence in one of Chicago's most expensive apartment buildings. The discrepancy between her professional income and her housing expenses suggested either additional financial resources or assistance from someone with greater earning capacity, potentially including financial support from David that represented another dimension of his betrayal of our marriage. The marketing agency where Sophia worked proved to have connections to David's technology consulting firm through industry partnerships and collaborative projects that had brought their companies together on several client engagements over the past 2 years. The professional connection provided context for how David and Sophia had initially met and suggested that their relationship had developed through legitimate business interactions before evolving into the serious personal partnership that Patricia had celebrated with such enthusiasm. But the investigation also revealed that David had been actively promoting business opportunities between his firm and Sophia's agency, creating professional advantages for Sophia's career development that represented another form of inappropriate benefit derived from their personal relationship. The mixing of professional and personal interests violated ethical standards that could create consequences for both David's employment and his reputation within Chicago's competitive technology consulting market. The research process also uncovered disturbing evidence of Patricia's active role in facilitating and concealing David's affair, extending her involvement far beyond the simple announcement she had made during our Valentine's dinner. Social media analysis revealed that Patricia had been including Sophia in family gatherings and social events for several months, posting photographs that showed Sophia participating in Morrison family celebrations while I remained unaware of her existence or significance in David's life. Patricia's social media accounts included tagged locations at restaurants and entertainment venues where she had hosted Sophia for what appeared to be mother-daughter bonding experiences designed to integrate Sophia into the family structure before David's divorce from me had even been discussed. The deliberate cultivation of a relationship with David's girlfriend, while maintaining normal interactions with his wife, represented a level of calculated deception that transformed Patricia's role from passive enabler to active conspirator in the systematic betrayal of family trust and loyalty. The financial investigation expanded to include analysis of Patricia's business activities and the potential impact that family scandal could have on her interior design consulting practice, which depended heavily on referrals from Chicago's professional and social communities. Patricia had built her business reputation on her ability to provide sophisticated design services for clients who valued discretion, elegance, and social respectability in their personal and professional environments. The revelation that Patricia had been actively facilitating her son's affair while deceiving his wife could significantly damage her professional credibility within the social circles that provided her primary client base. Chicago's business community was relatively small and interconnected, with professional reputations built through decades of consistent behavior and personal integrity. The exposure of Patricia's role in family deception could create consequences that extended far beyond personal embarrassment into substantial business and financial impact. This research revealed leverage points that could be strategically useful for ensuring that appropriate consequences followed from their betrayal, while also providing insights into vulnerabilities that could be addressed through comprehensive strategic response rather than simple divorce proceedings. The investigation was revealing that the betrayal extended far beyond David's infidelity into a broader pattern of family deception that had systematically undermined my position, while elevating Sophia's integration into relationships and opportunities that rightfully belonged to David's legitimate spouse. But perhaps the most significant discovery was the extent to which my own resources and capabilities had been underestimated by everyone involved in this deception. The real estate portfolio that David's family dismissed as hobby activity represented genuine wealth and business expertise that provided multiple avenues for creating consequences they had never anticipated. Morrison Properties included relationships throughout Chicago's business community that could amplify the impact of exposing their betrayal while protecting my interests through strategic collaboration with other professionals who understood the importance of accountability and integrity. The investigation also revealed opportunities for positive transformation that extended beyond simple justice or revenge into genuine personal and professional growth that could emerge from this crisis. The systematic deception that had characterized my marriage had also obscured my own potential for achievement and independence, that was now becoming clearly visible through the lens of strategic analysis rather than emotional attachment to relationships that had never provided the security or respect I had believed they represented. By the end of the first week of investigation, I had assembled comprehensive documentation of David's affair, Patricia's complicity, and the financial and professional implications of their systematic betrayal. The evidence provided multiple avenues for legal action, professional consequences, and personal accountability that would ensure they faced appropriate results from their decision to humiliate and deceive someone they had significantly underestimated. But more importantly, the investigation had revealed the extent of my own capabilities and resources for addressing complex challenges through strategic thinking, systematic implementation, and professional collaboration with experts who could provide specialized knowledge and support. The woman who had been dismissed as David's supportive spouse was actually a successful business owner, with the skills, resources, and determination necessary for transforming this devastating betrayal into an opportunity for extraordinary personal liberation and professional advancement. The evidence-gathering phase was nearly complete. The strategic response was ready to escalate into active implementation. They had provided me with everything necessary to ensure that truth and consequences would ultimately prevail over deception and manipulation, and they remained completely unaware of the comprehensive reckoning that was approaching through their systematic underestimation of someone whose quiet competence had concealed genuine power and expertise. The investigation had revealed not only their vulnerabilities and misconduct, but also my own strength and potential for creating the kind of meaningful change that transforms crisis into opportunity for growth that exceeds anything that could have been achieved through the false security of relationships built on deception and disrespect. The second week of my investigation marked a crucial transition from evidence gathering to strategic implementation, requiring the assembly of a professional team capable of addressing the complex legal, financial, and business implications of David's systematic betrayal. The comprehensive documentation I had compiled revealed vulnerabilities and opportunities that demanded specialized expertise to ensure optimal outcomes across multiple dimensions of this evolving situation. The first priority involved securing legal representation that combined expertise in matrimonial law with sophisticated understanding of business asset protection and complex financial arrangements. Morrison Properties represented substantial wealth that required protection during divorce proceedings, while the evidence of David's infidelity and financial deception created opportunities for pursuing additional remedies beyond standard property division protocols. My research into Chicago's premier matrimonial attorneys led to Catherine Blackwood of Blackwood & Associates, a firm renowned for representing high-net-worth individuals in complex divorce cases involving substantial business interests and evidence of marital misconduct. Catherine's reputation included successful outcomes in cases where one spouse had attempted to conceal assets or manipulate financial arrangements to disadvantage their partner during divorce proceedings. The initial consultation with Catherine took place in her firm's downtown offices, located in a building that exemplified the kind of professional excellence and strategic sophistication I required for addressing this situation comprehensively. Catherine's approach to matrimonial law combined aggressive advocacy for client interests with meticulous attention to documentation and evidence that would support optimal outcomes in both negotiated settlements and courtroom proceedings. Catherine's analysis of my situation revealed multiple avenues for pursuing remedies that extended beyond standard divorce settlements into areas of financial recovery and professional accountability that could create substantial consequences for David's systematic deception. The evidence of hidden expenditures, deliberate concealment of assets, and breach of fiduciary duty between spouses provided foundation for pursuing enhanced property awards and punitive measures that would ensure appropriate accountability for his misconduct. The legal strategy development process also addressed the broader implications of Patricia's active participation in facilitating David's affair, which created potential claims for interference with marital relationships and conspiracy to defraud that could expand the scope of legal remedies available. Catherine's expertise in complex family law matters provided insights into how familial relationships created both opportunities and limitations for pursuing comprehensive accountability through legal channels. But Catherine's most valuable contribution was her understanding of how business assets and professional relationships could be leveraged to create consequences that extended beyond traditional divorce proceedings into areas of reputational and professional accountability that would ensure long-term impact from their decision to betray and humiliate someone they had underestimated. The combination of Morrison Properties' substantial value and my professional relationships throughout Chicago's business community provided resources for implementing strategic responses that would create lasting change rather than temporary inconvenience. The second essential component of my professional team was forensic accounting expertise, capable of conducting comprehensive analysis of financial arrangements, hidden assets, and evidence of systematic financial deception that could support legal proceedings while identifying additional areas of vulnerability and opportunity. The complexity of David's concealment efforts required specialized skills for reconstructing financial transactions and identifying patterns of behavior that demonstrated deliberate intent to deceive and defraud. Marcus Chen, a certified fraud examiner with extensive experience in matrimonial asset investigation, brought the technical expertise necessary for transforming the evidence I had gathered into professionally documented findings that would meet legal standards for courtroom presentation, while providing strategic intelligence for negotiation and settlement discussions. Marcus's background included corporate fraud investigation and white-collar crime analysis that provided sophisticated understanding of how individuals attempt to conceal assets and manipulate financial arrangements for personal advantage. The forensic accounting investigation revealed additional evidence of David's systematic financial deception that extended beyond the direct costs of maintaining his relationship with Sophia Chen into broader patterns of asset manipulation and expenditure concealment that had been ongoing throughout our marriage. The analysis identified credit accounts, investment transactions, and business arrangements that David had established without my knowledge. using joint marital assets to fund activities and investments that provided him exclusive benefit while creating financial obligations that affected our shared economic position. Marcus's investigation also uncovered evidence that David had been systematically underreporting his income and professional advancement opportunities to minimize his apparent earning capacity for potential divorce proceedings, while simultaneously using his actual increased earnings to fund his relationship with Sophia and establish financial arrangements that would benefit their future together at the expense of our marital estate. The forensic accounting analysis provided quantitative documentation of the financial harm that David's deception had caused to our marital assets, establishing foundation for pursuing enhanced property awards and financial remedies that would ensure appropriate compensation for his systematic breach of fiduciary duty between spouses. The evidence also supported claims for reimbursement of funds that David had improperly diverted from marital assets to support his relationship with Sophia. The third crucial element of my professional alliance was strategic communications expertise, capable of managing the reputational and professional consequences that would inevitably follow from exposing David's affair and Patricia's complicity in family deception. The interconnected nature of Chicago's business and social communities meant that information about their misconduct would circulate rapidly through professional networks and social circles that provided foundation for their careers and lifestyle preferences. Jennifer Walsh, a crisis communications specialist with extensive experience in reputation management for high-profile personal and business situations, provided expertise in controlling narrative development and ensuring that accurate information about their betrayal reached appropriate audiences while protecting my privacy and professional interests throughout the process. Jennifer's background included managing communications for complex divorce cases involving public figures and business leaders, where media attention and professional scrutiny required sophisticated strategic coordination. The communication strategy development process addressed both defensive and offensive elements of managing information flow about this situation, ensuring that my interests were protected while creating appropriate accountability for their misconduct through strategic disclosure to relevant professional and social networks. The approach balanced legitimate privacy concerns with the necessity of ensuring that their behavior faced appropriate consequences within the communities that had provided them social and professional advantages. Jennifer's analysis revealed that Patricia's interior design business was particularly vulnerable to reputational damage within Chicago's competitive luxury services market, where client relationships depended heavily on trust, discretion, and social respectability. The revelation that Patricia had actively facilitated family deception while maintaining normal business relationships with clients who valued integrity and reliability could create substantial consequences for her professional credibility and financial security. The communications strategy also addressed opportunities for positioning my own professional reputation advantageously within Chicago's real estate and business communities, transforming this personal crisis into an opportunity for demonstrating the kind of strategic thinking, professional competence, and personal integrity that could enhance my business relationships and create new opportunities for Morrison Properties' continued growth and development. The fourth essential component of my professional team was business intelligence and competitive analysis expertise, capable of understanding the professional vulnerabilities and strategic dependencies that could create leverage points for ensuring comprehensive accountability for their misconduct. The investigation had revealed that both David's technology consulting career and Patricia's interior design business depended on professional relationships and client referrals that could be affected by exposure of their participation in systematic family deception. Robert Martinez, a business intelligence analyst with extensive experience in competitive research and strategic vulnerability assessment, provided expertise in understanding how professional relationships, client dependencies, and market positioning created opportunities for ensuring that their behavior faced appropriate consequences within their respective business communities. Robert's background included corporate intelligence gathering and strategic analysis for complex business disputes that required sophisticated understanding of competitive dynamics and professional accountability mechanisms. The business intelligence analysis revealed that David's technology consulting firm operated within Chicago's competitive professional services market, where client relationships and professional reputation provided foundation for career advancement and business development opportunities. The exposure of David's systematic deception and ethical failures could create consequences for his professional credibility that would extend far beyond the immediate impact of divorce proceedings. The analysis also identified specific client relationships and professional partnerships that could be affected by revelation of David's character and judgment failures, creating opportunities for ensuring that his misconduct faced appropriate accountability within the business community that had provided him professional advantages and career development opportunities. Robert's investigation of Patricia's interior design business revealed similar vulnerabilities within Chicago's luxury services market, where client trust and social respectability provided foundation for business development and referral generation. The systematic nature of Patricia's participation in family deception could create consequences for her professional relationships that would ensure long-term accountability for her role in betraying family trust and loyalty. The coordination of these four professional specialties created a comprehensive alliance capable of addressing every dimension of this situation through sophisticated strategic implementation rather than emotional reaction or simple revenge-seeking. The legal expertise ensured optimal protection of my interests and appropriate accountability for their misconduct. The forensic accounting provided quantitative documentation of financial harm and evidence of systematic deception. The communications management protected my reputation while ensuring appropriate disclosure of their behavior. The business intelligence identified strategic leverage points for creating comprehensive consequences. But perhaps most importantly, the process of assembling this professional team had reinforced my understanding of my own capabilities and resources for addressing complex challenges through strategic thinking and systematic implementation. The woman who had been dismissed as David's supportive spouse possessed the business acumen, financial resources, and professional relationships necessary for transforming this devastating betrayal into an opportunity for comprehensive justice and personal liberation. The professional alliance was established and operational. The strategic framework was ready for implementation. The evidence was documented and analyzed. The leverage points were identified and assessed. The comprehensive response was prepared to commence, and they remained completely unaware of the sophisticated reckoning that would soon demonstrate the consequences of systematically underestimating someone whose quiet competence had concealed genuine power and determination. The transformation from betrayed spouse to strategic architect of justice was complete. The implementation phase was ready to begin, and the education they were about to receive would teach them permanent lessons about accountability, consequences, and the true meaning of strategic thinking, when applied by someone whose capabilities they had so profoundly misjudged. The third week following Patricia's devastating announcement marked the commencement of strategic implementation, transforming months of careful preparation into decisive action that would demonstrate the consequences of systematically underestimating someone whose capabilities extended far beyond their comprehension. The professional alliance I had assembled provided the expertise and resources necessary for implementing comprehensive responses that would address every dimension of their betrayal while positioning me advantageously for long-term success and personal liberation. The initial phase of strategic implementation required coordination across multiple professional disciplines to ensure that legal, financial, and reputational consequences developed simultaneously rather than sequentially, maximizing impact while minimizing opportunities for David and Patricia to adapt their strategies or implement defensive measures that could limit the effectiveness of my comprehensive response to their systematic deception and family betrayal. Catherine Blackwood initiated formal divorce proceedings with documentation that included comprehensive evidence of David's infidelity, financial misconduct, and breach of fiduciary duty between spouses. The legal filing included demands for enhanced property division based on David's systematic dissipation of marital assets, reimbursement for funds improperly diverted to support his relationship with Sophia Chen, and punitive measures that would ensure appropriate accountability for his deliberate deception and manipulation throughout our marriage. The legal strategy extended beyond standard divorce proceedings to include claims against Patricia for intentional interference with marital relationships and conspiracy to facilitate David's systematic breach of his obligations as a spouse. Catherine's expertise in complex family law matters provided foundation for pursuing comprehensive accountability that addressed both David's direct misconduct and Patricia's active participation in facilitating and concealing his betrayal of family trust and loyalty. The timing of the legal filing was coordinated with Marcus Chen's release of the forensic accounting analysis, which documented the full scope of David's financial deception and provided quantitative evidence of the harm his systematic concealment had caused to our marital estate. The forensic analysis revealed that David had diverted over $200,000 in marital assets to fund his relationship with Sophia, while simultaneously establishing hidden financial arrangements that would benefit their future together at my expense. Marcus's investigation had also uncovered evidence that David had been systematically underreporting his professional income and advancement opportunities to minimize his apparent earning capacity for potential divorce proceedings, while using his actual increased earnings to establish investment accounts and business arrangements that excluded me from financial benefits that represented community property under Illinois matrimonial law. The forensic accounting documentation provided foundation for pursuing enhanced financial remedies that would ensure appropriate compensation for David's systematic breach of fiduciary duty while establishing precedent for addressing similar cases of marital asset manipulation and concealment. The evidence also supported claims for attorney fees and investigation costs that would ensure David bore the financial burden of addressing the consequences of his own misconduct. Jennifer Walsh coordinated the communications strategy to ensure that accurate information about David and Patricia's systematic deception reached appropriate professional and social networks, without compromising my privacy or creating unnecessary exposure to media attention that could affect Morrison Properties or my other business relationships. The approach balanced legitimate accountability measures with professional discretion that protected my interests while ensuring their behavior faced appropriate consequences. The communications implementation included strategic disclosure to key individuals within Chicago's real estate and business communities who possessed influence within the professional networks that provided foundation for both David's technology consulting career and Patricia's interior design business. The information was presented through confidential communications that emphasized the systematic nature of their deception while demonstrating my commitment to maintaining professional integrity despite personal challenges. Jennifer's analysis had identified specific client relationships and professional partnerships that would be particularly sensitive to revelation of character and judgment failures, creating opportunities for ensuring that their misconduct faced accountability within the business communities that had provided them professional advantages and social credibility. The strategic disclosure process was designed to create cumulative pressure over time rather than immediate dramatic confrontation that could generate defensive responses or media attention. Robert Martinez implemented the business intelligence strategy by conducting comprehensive analysis of competitive vulnerabilities and strategic dependencies that could amplify the impact of legal and reputational consequences through professional and commercial channels. The investigation revealed specific areas where David's technology consulting firm and Patricia's interior design business were vulnerable to market pressure and client relationship disruption. Robert's analysis identified that David's firm depended heavily on referral relationships with other professional service providers within Chicago's business community, including legal firms, accounting practices, and consulting organizations that valued integrity and reliability in their professional partnerships. The exposure of David's systematic deception and ethical failures could create consequences for these referral relationships that would extend far beyond the immediate impact of divorce proceedings. The business intelligence investigation also revealed that Patricia's interior design business operated within Chicago's competitive luxury services market through client relationships that depended on trust, discretion, and social respectability. The systematic nature of Patricia's participation in family deception represented character failures that could significantly affect her credibility within the social circles that provided her primary client base and referral sources. But the most significant element of the strategic implementation was the revelation of information that would demonstrate the extent to which they had underestimated my resources and capabilities. The first major demonstration of this leverage occurred when David received notification that the building where his technology consulting firm maintained their offices had been acquired by Morrison Properties, making me his landlord and providing direct control over the commercial arrangements that supported his professional operations. The acquisition had been in development for several months as part of Morrison Properties' expansion into premium commercial real estate within Chicago's professional services district. The building represented an excellent investment opportunity, that aligned with my strategic objectives for portfolio growth and diversification across different property types and tenant categories. The timing of the acquisition's completion during this period was fortunate circumstance that provided additional leverage for addressing David's systematic betrayal. David's discovery that his wife now owned the building where he conducted his professional activities created immediate recognition that the woman he had dismissed as a supportive spouse possessed business capabilities and financial resources that extended far beyond his understanding or expectations. The realization that I could directly affect his professional environment and business operations provided concrete demonstration of the strategic vulnerabilities he had created through his systematic deception. The commercial lease arrangements for David's firm included standard provisions for tenant conduct and character requirements that could be relevant for addressing situations where tenant behavior reflected poorly on building management or created potential liability issues for property ownership. The systematic nature of David's deception and ethical failures provided foundation for pursuing lease modifications or termination procedures if his misconduct created professional or reputational problems that affected the building's overall commercial environment. But beyond the direct leverage provided by the landlord-tenant relationship, the acquisition demonstrated my commitment to strategic business development that would continue regardless of personal challenges or relationship transitions. Morrison Properties had grown from a single apartment building into a sophisticated real estate portfolio through systematic investment and professional management that reflected genuine business expertise rather than casual hobby activity. The second major demonstration of strategic leverage occurred when Patricia discovered that her interior design business's commercial space was located in a neighborhood where Morrison Properties owned several rental buildings that housed many of her current and potential clients. The interconnected nature of Chicago's residential real estate market meant that my property management activities provided insights into the financial stability, lifestyle preferences, and social connections of individuals within Patricia's target client demographic. This geographical overlap created opportunities for understanding client relationships, referral patterns, and business development strategies that Patricia would not expect me to possess or understand. The property management business had provided natural access to information about neighborhood dynamics, resident demographics, and commercial activity patterns that could become strategically relevant for addressing Patricia's role in family deception. The revelation that I possessed detailed knowledge about the economic foundations that supported Patricia's business operations provided additional demonstration that the woman she had dismissed as David's insignificant spouse actually possessed sophisticated understanding of Chicago's business environment and the competitive factors that determined success or failure within professional service markets. The coordination of these strategic demonstrations created cumulative pressure that began to affect both David and Patricia's confidence in their ability to control the narrative or minimize the consequences of their systematic betrayal. The recognition that I possessed resources, expertise, and strategic positioning that they had never anticipated began to transform their perception of this situation from simple divorce proceedings into complex accountability measures that could affect multiple dimensions of their personal and professional lives. David's initial response to these developments revealed the extent to which he had underestimated both my capabilities and my determination to ensure comprehensive accountability for his misconduct. His attempts to negotiate reduced consequences through private communications demonstrated his growing understanding that the woman he had betrayed possessed strategic advantages that could create long-term problems for his professional and financial security. Patricia's reaction to the revelation of my business capabilities and strategic positioning showed similar recognition that the family dynamics she had assumed would continue unchanged were actually shifting dramatically in ways that could affect her social standing and professional credibility within the communities that provided foundation for her lifestyle and business success. But perhaps the most significant aspect of this implementation phase was the personal transformation I experienced through applying business principles to address betrayal and deception in strategic rather than emotional terms. The systematic approach to achieving justice and accountability provided clarity and purpose that transcended the hurt and anger that had initially overwhelmed me during Patricia's Valentine's dinner announcement. The professional alliance I had assembled provided not only practical expertise for addressing complex legal and financial challenges, but also validation that my business acumen and strategic thinking capabilities were recognized and respected by specialists who understood sophisticated problem-solving and comprehensive planning. The collaboration with experts who appreciated my analytical abilities and resource management skills reinforced my confidence in pursuing ambitious objectives despite personal challenges. The implementation process demonstrated that the invisible competence I had developed through years of property management and business development could be applied effectively to personal situations that required sophisticated responses to complex problems. The woman who had been dismissed as David's supportive spouse possessed strategic thinking abilities and professional relationships that enabled comprehensive accountability measures that they had never imagined possible. The initial implementation phase was producing measurable results across multiple dimensions of the strategic framework. Legal proceedings were advancing with compelling evidence and expert support. Financial analysis was revealing additional areas of misconduct and recovery opportunity. Communication strategy was creating appropriate professional accountability without compromising my privacy. Business intelligence was identifying ongoing vulnerabilities and leverage points for sustained impact. The education process had commenced, and they were beginning to understand the consequences of systematically underestimating someone whose quiet competence had concealed determination and capabilities that would transform their betrayal into comprehensive lessons about accountability, integrity, and strategic thinking applied with precision and purpose. The fourth week of strategic implementation marked a critical escalation phase as the initial demonstrations of leverage created ripple effects throughout David and Patricia's professional and social networks, generating momentum that extended the impact of my comprehensive response far beyond the immediate scope of divorce proceedings and personal accountability measures. The systematic pressure I had carefully orchestrated was beginning to produce cascading consequences that revealed additional opportunities for ensuring long-term justice while positioning Morrison Properties and my professional reputation advantageously within Chicago's business community. Catherine Blackwood reported that David's legal representation had requested multiple meetings to discuss settlement negotiations, indicating their recognition that the evidence of his systematic deception and financial misconduct had created legal exposure that extended beyond standard divorce outcomes into areas of potential criminal liability for asset concealment and fraud. The forensic accounting analysis had revealed patterns of behavior that could interest federal investigators if David's manipulation of joint assets and tax obligations suggested broader financial crimes beyond marital misconduct. The legal pressure was creating strategic advantages for negotiating enhanced property division and financial remedies that would ensure comprehensive compensation for the harm David's betrayal had caused to our marital estate. Catherine's expertise in complex matrimonial cases provided foundation for pursuing aggressive settlement terms that would establish precedent for addressing similar situations where one spouse had systematically manipulated financial arrangements to disadvantage their partner while building alternative relationships. David's attorneys had also expressed concern about the potential for additional civil claims related to his professional conduct and ethical violations that could affect his technology consulting career beyond the immediate impact of divorce proceedings. The systematic nature of his deception suggested character and judgment failures that could create liability issues for his firm if clients or professional partners determined that his behavior reflected poorly on their association with his services. Marcus Chen's expanded forensic investigation had uncovered additional evidence of David's financial manipulation that revealed connections between his personal misconduct and his professional activities. The analysis identified business expenses that David had improperly charged to his firm while conducting personal activities related to his relationship with Sophia Chen, creating potential conflicts of interest and ethical violations that could interest professional licensing boards and regulatory agencies. The forensic accounting also revealed that David had been using his position at the technology consulting firm to provide preferential treatment to Sophia's digital marketing agency, steering contracts and business opportunities to her company without proper disclosure of their personal relationship. This mixing of professional responsibilities with personal interests represented ethical violations that could create consequences for both David's employment status and his professional reputation within Chicago's competitive consulting market. Marcus's investigation had also identified tax implications of David's asset concealment and manipulation that could interest the Internal Revenue Service, if his attempts to hide income and manipulate financial arrangements suggested systematic tax avoidance or evasion. The complexity of his financial deception created potential exposure to federal investigation that would extend consequences far beyond divorce proceedings into areas of criminal liability and professional sanctions. Jennifer Walsh coordinated an expansion of the communications strategy to leverage the growing recognition of David and Patricia's misconduct within Chicago's interconnected business and social communities. The strategic disclosure process had generated organic information flow, as individuals who received initial communications shared their concerns with other professionals and social contacts who had relationships with David or Patricia. The communications expansion included targeted outreach to specific individuals within professional associations and industry organizations that provided networking and business development opportunities for both David's technology consulting practice and Patricia's interior design business. The information was presented through confidential channels that emphasized the systematic nature of their deception, while providing recipients with knowledge they needed to make informed decisions about professional relationships and business partnerships. Jennifer's analysis revealed that the organic spread of information about their misconduct was creating cumulative pressure within their respective professional communities, as clients, colleagues, and business partners began questioning their judgment and reliability. The interconnected nature of Chicago's business environment meant that reputation problems in one sector quickly affected relationships and opportunities across multiple professional networks. The communication strategy also addressed opportunities for positioning my own professional reputation advantageously within these same business communities. By demonstrating strategic thinking, ethical behavior, and professional competence in addressing complex personal challenges, the systematic approach I had taken to dealing with betrayal and deception was generating respect and recognition among business professionals who appreciated sophisticated problem-solving and comprehensive planning. Robert Martinez reported significant developments in the business intelligence analysis that revealed additional vulnerabilities in David and Patricia's professional positioning that could be leveraged to amplify the impact of legal and reputational consequences. The investigation had identified specific client relationships and business partnerships that were particularly sensitive to revelation of character and ethical failures. Robert's analysis revealed that David's technology consulting firm had recently pursued several major contract opportunities with clients who required extensive background investigations and character assessments as part of their vendor selection processes. The revelation of David's systematic deception and ethical violations could disqualify his firm from these opportunities, while creating questions about their due diligence processes and professional standards. The business intelligence investigation also identified that Patricia's interior design business was pursuing expansion into corporate consulting services for professional firms and financial institutions that required vendors to meet strict integrity and character requirements. The systematic nature of Patricia's participation in family deception could create significant obstacles for this business development initiative, while damaging her credibility within the corporate services market. Robert had also discovered that both David and Patricia were involved in professional organizations and industry associations that maintained codes of conduct and ethical standards that could be relevant for addressing their systematic deception and character failures. The evidence of their misconduct provided foundation for pursuing professional sanctions and organizational accountability measures that would create additional consequences beyond legal and financial remedies. The most significant development during this implementation phase was the emergence of unexpected opportunities that resulted from my growing recognition within Chicago's business community as someone who possessed sophisticated strategic thinking abilities and professional competence that had been previously underestimated. The systematic approach I had taken to addressing betrayal and deception was generating interest from other business professionals who appreciated comprehensive planning and strategic execution. Several prominent real estate investors and property developers had approached me about potential collaboration opportunities, recognizing that Morrison Properties represented sophisticated asset management and strategic thinking capabilities that could provide valuable partnership benefits for larger commercial development projects. These inquiries reflected growing awareness that my property portfolio was the result of genuine business expertise rather than casual investment activity. The professional networking opportunities that emerged from this recognition created potential for expanding Morrison Properties into larger commercial real estate projects and strategic partnerships that would accelerate business growth while establishing my reputation as a significant player within Chicago's property development community. The personal crisis that had initially seemed devastating was actually creating opportunities for professional advancement that exceeded anything that could have been achieved through maintaining relationships built on deception and disrespect. 3 major commercial real estate firms had invited me to participate in syndicated investment opportunities that would provide access to premium properties and development projects typically reserved for established institutional investors. These invitations reflected recognition that my track record with Morrison Properties demonstrated analytical capabilities and strategic thinking that qualified me for more sophisticated investment opportunities. The business development opportunities also included consulting engagements where other property investors sought my expertise in market analysis, tenant relations, and strategic planning for complex real estate projects. The systematic approach I had developed for building Morrison Properties was generating recognition as a replicable methodology that could provide value for other professionals pursuing similar objectives. Additionally, several professional organizations had invited me to speak at conferences and industry events about strategic property management and business development for independent real estate investors. These speaking opportunities would provide platform for establishing thought leadership within the industry, while expanding professional relationships that could support continued business growth and development. The expanding recognition of my professional capabilities was also creating opportunities for addressing David and Patricia's misconduct through business channels that they had not anticipated. The growing network of professional relationships provided access to information and influence within the same business communities where they conducted their professional activities. Several business associates had shared concerns about David's ethical standards and professional judgment based on their knowledge of his systematic deception and manipulation in personal relationships. These concerns were beginning to affect his firm's ability to pursue certain client opportunities and professional partnerships that required demonstrated integrity and character. Similarly, professionals within Patricia's target market for interior design services had expressed reservations about her reliability and trustworthiness based on information about her active participation in family deception and systematic betrayal of trust. These reservations were affecting her ability to secure new clients and maintain existing relationships within Chicago's competitive luxury services market. The cascading effects of strategic pressure were creating comprehensive accountability that addressed every dimension of their misconduct, while positioning me advantageously for continued success and professional growth. The systematic approach to achieving justice was producing results that extended far beyond simple revenge into genuine transformation of my personal and professional circumstances. The implementation phase had also reinforced my understanding of my own capabilities and potential for achieving objectives that exceeded anything I had previously considered possible. The strategic thinking abilities and professional competence that had enabled successful real estate investment were proving equally effective for addressing complex personal challenges and creating opportunities for significant advancement. The woman who had been dismissed as David's supportive spouse was emerging as a recognized business leader whose analytical abilities and strategic execution were generating respect and recognition among Chicago's most successful professionals. The quiet competence that had been overlooked and underestimated was becoming visible as genuine expertise that commanded attention and created opportunities for meaningful achievement. The transformation was accelerating beyond my initial expectations, creating momentum that would continue generating positive outcomes while ensuring that David and Patricia faced comprehensive consequences for their systematic betrayal. The education process was producing permanent lessons about accountability, integrity, and the dangers of underestimating someone whose capabilities extend far beyond surface appearances and social assumptions. The strategic implementation was building toward a conclusion that would demonstrate definitively the power of systematic thinking, professional competence, and strategic planning when applied with precision and determination to address injustice and create meaningful change. The 5th week of strategic implementation culminated in a series of critical confrontations that demonstrated the comprehensive scope of consequences that systematic deception and betrayal could generate when addressed through sophisticated strategic planning rather than emotional reaction. The cascading pressure I had carefully orchestrated had reached a threshold where David and Patricia could no longer maintain their previous assumptions about controlling outcomes or minimizing accountability for their misconduct. The first major confrontation occurred when David arrived at his office building to discover a formal notice posted in the lobby announcing new ownership under Morrison Properties Management. The notification included standard information about property management changes, contact procedures for tenant services, and building policy updates that would take effect under new ownership. The professional presentation of this information provided David with unambiguous recognition that his wife now controlled the commercial environment where he conducted his daily professional activities. David's immediate response involved requesting an urgent meeting with building management to discuss lease arrangements and potential modifications to tenancy agreements. The meeting provided an opportunity for direct communication about the professional implications of his personal misconduct while maintaining appropriate business protocols for landlord-tenant relationships. The discussion revealed David's growing understanding that his systematic betrayal had created vulnerabilities he had never anticipated. During the meeting, David attempted to negotiate informal arrangements that would minimize the potential for his personal situation to affect his professional environment. His requests focused on maintaining separation between family matters and business operations, suggesting his recognition that the integration of these previously distinct areas created strategic disadvantages for his position. The conversation demonstrated his acknowledgement that his behavior had consequences extending beyond personal relationships into professional and financial dimensions. The building management meeting also provided an opportunity to present David with comprehensive documentation of the strategic advantages his deception had inadvertently created for Morrison Properties and my professional development within Chicago's real estate community. The systematic approach I had taken to addressing his betrayal had generated recognition and opportunities that exceeded the scope of our original marital relationship, while positioning me advantageously for continued success regardless of personal circumstances. David's reaction to this information revealed the extent to which he had underestimated both my capabilities and my determination to ensure comprehensive accountability for his systematic deception. His attempts to negotiate reduced consequences through personal appeals demonstrated his growing understanding that the woman he had betrayed possessed resources and strategic thinking abilities that could create long-term problems for his professional and financial security. The second major confrontation occurred when Patricia received notification that several of her current and prospective clients had terminated service agreements or declined to proceed with proposed projects. The client departures were attributed to concerns about reliability and trustworthiness that had emerged through business and social networks, where information about her participation in family deception had circulated among individuals who valued integrity and character in their professional service providers. Patricia's response to these business consequences involved attempts to contact me directly to negotiate resolution of what she characterized as a misunderstanding that was unfairly affecting her professional relationships. Her communications revealed recognition that the systematic nature of her participation in David's affair had created reputation problems that extended beyond family dynamics into areas of business credibility and client trust. The conversation with Patricia provided an opportunity to present comprehensive documentation of her active role in facilitating David's systematic betrayal while maintaining normal family relationships that concealed their deception from me. The evidence included social media posts, financial records, and communications that demonstrated her deliberate participation in activities designed to undermine our marriage, while integrating Sophia Chen into family structures that excluded me from knowledge of their developing relationship. Patricia's attempts to characterize her behavior as supportive parenting rather than active conspiracy demonstrated her failure to understand the systematic nature of her participation in family deception and the professional consequences that such behavior could generate within business communities that valued integrity and reliability. Her efforts to minimize accountability for her actions revealed the extent to which she had underestimated the potential for her misconduct to affect her business relationships and financial security. The conversation also addressed the broader implications of Patricia's business model, which depended heavily on referrals from clients who trusted her judgment and character. The revelation that she had actively facilitated family deception while maintaining professional relationships based on reliability and discretion created fundamental contradictions that could significantly affect her ability to maintain existing client relationships and develop new business opportunities. The third critical confrontation occurred when David's technology consulting firm received notification that several major contract opportunities had been withdrawn due to concerns about ethical standards and professional judgment that had emerged during vendor background investigations. The contract withdrawals were attributed to questions about character and reliability that could affect client confidence in the firm's ability to maintain professional standards and ethical behavior in business relationships. David's firm attempted to address these concerns through meetings with client representatives to discuss the distinction between personal and professional conduct. These discussions revealed that sophisticated business clients understood the interconnected nature of character and judgment across different areas of life, recognizing that systematic deception in personal relationships could indicate potential problems with integrity and reliability in professional contexts. The professional consequences also extended to David's relationships with business partners and professional associates, who had learned about his systematic deception through Chicago's interconnected business community. Several consulting partnerships were terminated or modified due to concerns about reputation risks and potential liability issues that could emerge from association with someone whose character and judgment had been compromised through personal misconduct. The cumulative impact of these professional consequences created comprehensive accountability that addressed David's systematic betrayal through multiple channels, while demonstrating the long-term implications of his decision to prioritize deception over integrity. The education process was producing permanent lessons about the interconnected nature of character and the professional costs of systematic dishonesty. Simultaneously, the expansion of recognition for my strategic thinking abilities and business competence was accelerating opportunities for Morrison Properties that demonstrated the transformative potential of applying professional expertise to personal challenges. 3 major real estate development firms had formally invited me to participate in syndicated investment projects that would provide access to premium commercial properties and strategic partnerships typically reserved for established institutional investors. The syndicated investment opportunities included participation in a landmark office building renovation project in Chicago's financial district, development of a mixed-use commercial complex in a rapidly appreciating neighborhood, and acquisition of a portfolio of rental properties that would significantly expand Morrison Properties' geographic reach and tenant diversity. These opportunities reflected recognition that my track record demonstrated analytical capabilities and strategic execution that qualified me for sophisticated investment partnerships. Professional consulting engagements had also emerged, where other property investors and development firms sought my expertise in market analysis, strategic planning, and property management systems. The methodical approach I had developed for building Morrison Properties was generating recognition as a replicable framework that could provide value for other professionals pursuing similar objectives in competitive real estate markets. The consulting opportunities included developing investment strategies for pension funds seeking real estate portfolio diversification, providing market analysis for foreign investors entering Chicago's commercial property market, and designing property management systems for firms expanding their rental property operations. These engagements would establish my reputation as a thought leader within the industry, while creating additional revenue streams that would accelerate business growth. Several industry organizations had extended invitations for speaking engagements at major conferences and professional development events, where my experience building Morrison Properties would provide valuable insights for other real estate professionals. The speaking opportunities would establish platform for sharing strategic frameworks and analytical approaches while expanding professional relationships throughout the national real estate investment community. The speaking engagements included presentations at the National Association of Real Estate Investment Professionals annual conference, the Chicago Commercial Real Estate Summit, and specialized workshops for women entrepreneurs in property development. These platforms would provide opportunities to demonstrate expertise while building relationships that could support continued business expansion and strategic development. The professional recognition was also creating opportunities for board positions and advisory roles with real estate investment organizations and property development firms that sought individuals with demonstrated analytical capabilities and strategic thinking skills. These positions would provide influence within industry organizations while establishing credentials that could support expanded business activities and professional advancement. The transformation from dismissed spouse to recognized business leader was accelerating beyond my initial expectations, creating momentum that would continue generating positive outcomes while ensuring comprehensive accountability for David and Patricia's systematic betrayal. The strategic approach to addressing personal crisis was producing professional advancement that exceeded anything that could have been achieved through maintaining relationships built on deception and disrespect. The cumulative impact of strategic implementation was demonstrating that sophisticated planning and systematic execution could transform devastating personal circumstances into opportunities for extraordinary professional growth and meaningful achievement. The quiet competence that had been overlooked and underestimated was emerging as genuine expertise that commanded respect and created platforms for significant influence within Chicago's business community. The education process had reached a critical threshold where David and Patricia were experiencing comprehensive consequences that would create permanent changes in their personal and professional circumstances, while my own transformation was generating opportunities that would provide foundation for continued success and meaningful contribution to the real estate investment community. The systematic approach to achieving justice was producing results that extended far beyond simple accountability into genuine transformation of circumstances that would establish new foundations for personal fulfillment and professional achievement. The woman who had been betrayed and humiliated was emerging as someone whose capabilities and determination had created comprehensive change that benefited her interests while demonstrating the power of strategic thinking applied with precision and purpose. The 6th week of strategic implementation marked a pivotal acceleration phase, where the systematic pressure I had orchestrated began generating exponential returns that extended far beyond the original scope of addressing David and Patricia's betrayal into areas of significant business expansion and professional recognition that would establish Morrison Properties as a major force within Chicago's commercial real estate sector. The comprehensive accountability measures had reached a critical mass where their effectiveness became self-sustaining through organic market forces and professional network dynamics that no longer required direct intervention to maintain momentum. The education process for David and Patricia was producing permanent behavioral modifications, while creating space for my own transformation to accelerate toward objectives that exceeded my initial strategic framework. Catherine Blackwood reported breakthrough developments in divorce negotiations that reflected David's legal team's recognition that continued resistance to settlement terms would only amplify the professional and financial consequences he was already experiencing. The forensic accounting evidence had established such compelling documentation of his systematic asset manipulation and breach of fiduciary duty that prolonged litigation would only increase his exposure to additional civil and potentially criminal liability. The settlement discussions had evolved from standard property division negotiations into comprehensive accountability measures that would ensure appropriate compensation for the systematic harm David's deception had caused, while establishing precedent for addressing similar cases of marital asset manipulation. Catherine's expertise in complex matrimonial law provided foundation for pursuing enhanced financial remedies that would protect my interests while creating meaningful consequences for David's misconduct. The legal framework also addressed Patricia's active participation in facilitating David's systematic betrayal through claims for intentional interference with marital relationships that would ensure her accountability extended beyond social embarrassment into areas of financial responsibility for her deliberate actions. The comprehensive approach to addressing family conspiracy would establish legal precedent for holding extended family members accountable for their participation in systematic deception. David's attorneys had requested mediation proceedings to expedite resolution of financial arrangements while minimizing additional exposure to professional consequences that were affecting his technology consulting career beyond the immediate scope of divorce proceedings. The mediation request reflected their understanding that the systematic nature of his deception had created strategic disadvantages that would only worsen through prolonged adversarial proceedings. Marcus Chen's expanded forensic investigation had uncovered additional layers of David's financial manipulation that revealed connections between his personal misconduct and broader patterns of ethical violations that could interest professional licensing boards and regulatory agencies. The analysis identified business arrangements and professional relationships that David had compromised through his systematic dishonesty, creating potential liability issues that extended beyond marital assets into areas of professional accountability. The forensic analysis also revealed tax implications and reporting irregularities that could attract attention from federal agencies if David's asset concealment and income manipulation suggested systematic avoidance of tax obligations. The complexity of his financial deception had created potential exposure to investigation that would ensure long-term consequences extending far beyond divorce settlements into areas of criminal liability. Marcus's investigation had also documented quantitative evidence of the business opportunities and professional advancement that David's misconduct had cost me through years of prioritizing his needs over my own career development. The analysis provided foundation for pursuing compensation that reflected not only direct financial harm but also opportunity costs and professional advancement that had been sacrificed to support relationships built on systematic deception. Jennifer Walsh coordinated expansion of the communications strategy to leverage the growing recognition of my professional competence and strategic thinking abilities within Chicago's business community. The systematic approach I had taken to addressing betrayal was generating respect among professionals who appreciated sophisticated problem-solving and comprehensive planning under challenging circumstances. The communications expansion included strategic positioning within industry publications and professional forums, where my experience building Morrison properties would provide valuable insights for other real estate professionals pursuing similar objectives. The content development emphasized strategic frameworks and analytical approaches that could be replicated by other investors, while establishing my reputation as a thought leader within the commercial real estate sector. Jennifer's analysis revealed that the organic spread of information about my business capabilities was creating opportunities for collaboration and partnership that extended far beyond the Chicago market into regional and national real estate investment communities. The recognition of my analytical abilities and strategic execution was generating interest from institutional investors and development firms, seeking partners with demonstrated competence in complex property management and strategic planning. The communications strategy also addressed opportunities for media engagement that would establish platform for sharing expertise while building personal brand recognition within the real estate investment community. The systematic transformation from dismissed spouse to recognized business leader provided compelling narrative for business publications and professional development forums that featured success stories and strategic case studies. Robert Martinez reported significant developments in competitive analysis that revealed additional opportunities for leveraging market position and professional relationships to accelerate Morrison Properties' expansion into premium commercial real estate segments. The investigation had identified specific market inefficiencies and competitive vulnerabilities that could be addressed through strategic acquisitions and partnership arrangements. Robert's analysis revealed that several major commercial properties in Chicago's financial district were experiencing ownership transitions that would create opportunities for strategic acquisition through syndicated investment partnerships. The properties represented premium office buildings and mixed-use developments that would significantly enhance Morrison Properties' portfolio, while providing access to institutional quality tenants and long-term lease arrangements. The business intelligence investigation also identified potential partnership opportunities with pension funds and institutional investors seeking local expertise for Chicago market entry strategies. The recognition of my analytical capabilities and market knowledge was generating interest from national investment firms that required regional partners with demonstrated competence in complex property management and strategic development. Robert had also discovered opportunities for international collaboration, with foreign investors seeking entry into United States commercial real estate markets through partnerships with established local professionals. The systematic approach I had developed for building Morrison Properties was generating recognition as a replicable methodology that could provide value for international investors pursuing similar objectives in competitive domestic markets. The most significant development during this expansion phase was the formal invitation to participate in the Millennium Commercial Real Estate Syndicate, an exclusive investment partnership comprising Chicago's most successful property developers and institutional investors. The syndicate controlled over $3 billion in commercial real estate assets and provided members with access to premium development opportunities typically reserved for major institutional players. The invitation reflected recognition that Morrison Properties represented analytical capabilities and strategic execution that qualified me for participation in sophisticated investment partnerships that could accelerate business growth while establishing my reputation within Chicago's most exclusive commercial real estate circles. The syndicate membership would provide access to institutional quality deals and strategic relationships that would transform Morrison Properties from successful independent operation into major market participant. The syndicate participation also included opportunities for co-investment in landmark development projects that would establish my involvement in Chicago's most significant commercial real estate initiatives. The projects included mixed-use developments in prime downtown locations, office building renovations in the financial district, and residential developments in rapidly appreciating neighborhoods that would provide substantial returns while enhancing professional credibility. Syndicate membership would also provide access to proprietary market research and analytical resources that would enhance investment decision-making, while establishing relationships with other successful professionals who could provide mentorship and strategic guidance for continued business expansion. The collaborative environment would accelerate learning and development opportunities while providing platform for sharing expertise with other accomplished investors. Additionally, 3 major pension funds had approached Morrison Properties directly to discuss potential investment partnerships for Chicago commercial real estate opportunities. The pension fund interest reflected recognition that my track record demonstrated institutional quality, analytical capabilities, and risk management that could provide value for large-scale investment strategies requiring local expertise and strategic oversight. The pension fund partnerships would provide access to substantial capital for major acquisition and development projects, while establishing credentials that would support continued expansion into institutional investment markets. The relationships would also provide opportunities for developing specialized expertise in pension fund investment requirements and regulatory compliance that could create additional consulting revenue streams. Several national real estate investment firms had also extended invitations for acquisition partnerships, where Morrison Properties would provide local market expertise and property management capabilities for their Chicago market expansion strategies. The partnerships would provide access to institutional capital and development resources, while establishing relationships that could support geographic expansion beyond the Chicago market. The partnership opportunities included collaboration on office building acquisitions in the Loop District, mixed-use development projects in emerging neighborhoods, and residential property portfolio expansion throughout the greater Chicago metropolitan area. The partnerships would accelerate business growth while providing learning opportunities about institutional investment strategies and sophisticated property development methodologies. The professional recognition had also generated invitations for board positions with real estate investment organizations and industry associations that would provide influence within professional communities while establishing credentials for continued leadership development. The board positions would provide platform for industry involvement while creating opportunities for strategic relationship building and professional advancement. The transformation from dismissed spouse to recognized industry leader was accelerating through systematic strategic execution that had converted personal crisis into comprehensive business opportunity. The quiet competence that had been overlooked and underestimated was emerging as genuine expertise that commanded respect and created platforms for significant achievement within Chicago's most competitive business sectors. The strategic implementation had demonstrated that sophisticated planning and methodical execution could transform devastating personal circumstances into opportunities for extraordinary professional advancement and meaningful contribution to business communities that valued analytical capabilities and strategic thinking. The systematic approach to achieving justice was producing results that established new foundations for continued success and significant influence within the commercial real estate investment sector. The 7th week of strategic implementation marked a decisive transformation where the systematic pressure I had orchestrated evolved into sustainable competitive advantages that established Morrison Properties as a recognized leader within Chicago's commercial real estate sector. The comprehensive accountability measures had achieved their intended objectives while creating momentum for professional advancement that would provide enduring benefits extending far beyond the resolution of personal betrayal. The strategic framework had demonstrated that sophisticated analytical thinking combined with methodical execution could transform devastating personal circumstances into opportunities for extraordinary business development and meaningful industry contribution. The woman who had been systematically underestimated was establishing herself as someone whose capabilities commanded respect and generated collaborative opportunities with Chicago's most successful commercial real estate professionals. Catherine Blackwood finalized divorce settlement negotiations that reflected David's complete capitulation to terms that ensured comprehensive compensation for his systematic asset manipulation and breach of fiduciary obligations. The settlement included enhanced property division that protected Morrison Properties while providing additional financial resources for continued business expansion and strategic development initiatives. The legal resolution also established important precedent for addressing cases where one spouse systematically manipulates marital assets while building alternative relationships through deliberate deception and concealment. Catherine's expertise in complex matrimonial law had created frameworks that would benefit other individuals facing similar betrayal, while ensuring that David's misconduct resulted in meaningful consequences that extended beyond temporary embarrassment into permanent financial accountability. The settlement terms included provisions that would prevent David from pursuing any claims against Morrison Properties or interfering with my business operations and professional relationships. The legal protection ensured that the strategic advantages I had developed through systematic planning would remain secure, while providing foundation for continued expansion, without concern about potential disruption from his ongoing resentment or vindictive behavior. Patricia's accountability measures had been incorporated into the comprehensive settlement through civil claims that addressed her active participation in facilitating David's systematic betrayal of marital obligations. The legal framework ensured that her role in family conspiracy resulted in financial responsibility that reflected the deliberate nature of her deception and the harm her actions had caused to legitimate family relationships. Marcus Chen concluded the forensic accounting investigation with comprehensive documentation that would serve as template for addressing similar cases of systematic asset manipulation and marital financial fraud. The methodical approach to uncovering hidden transactions and concealed assets had revealed investigative techniques that could benefit other professionals working in matrimonial financial analysis, while establishing my case as exemplary model for pursuing enhanced remedies in complex divorce proceedings. The forensic analysis had also provided quantitative validation of the opportunity costs and professional advancement that David's systematic deception had imposed through years of prioritizing his needs over my career development. The documentation established clear financial justification for pursuing compensation that reflected not only direct monetary harm, but also the strategic disadvantages his betrayal had created for Morrison Properties' earlier expansion opportunities. Marcus's investigation had revealed additional business development possibilities that emerged from understanding market dynamics and competitive positioning through forensic analysis methodologies. The analytical skills required for reconstructing complex financial transactions provided valuable capabilities for evaluating commercial real estate opportunities and identifying strategic advantages that conventional market analysis might overlook. Jennifer Walsh coordinated the expansion of strategic communications to leverage the growing recognition of my professional transformation within Chicago's business community and national commercial real estate circles. The systematic approach to addressing personal crisis through sophisticated business principles had generated compelling narrative that resonated with professionals who appreciated strategic thinking and methodical problem-solving under challenging circumstances. The communications strategy included development of thought leadership content for industry publications that would establish my expertise in strategic property management, analytical investment approaches, and comprehensive business planning. The content positioned Morrison Properties as innovative leader in applying systematic analytical frameworks to commercial real estate development while demonstrating methodologies that other professionals could adapt for their own strategic initiatives. Jennifer's analysis revealed that the professional transformation story was generating significant interest from business media and industry publications, seeking case studies that demonstrated how analytical capabilities and strategic execution could create extraordinary outcomes from challenging personal circumstances. The media engagement opportunities would provide platform for sharing expertise, while building personal brand recognition that would support continued business development and industry influence. The communications expansion also addressed international recognition opportunities, where the systematic approach to building Morrison Properties could provide valuable insights for commercial real estate professionals in other markets, seeking frameworks for strategic development and analytical investment methodologies. The international interest reflected growing recognition that the principles underlying my business success could be applied effectively across different market environments and competitive contexts. Robert Martinez completed the competitive analysis with identification of long-term strategic positioning that would enable Morrison Properties to maintain competitive advantages while pursuing expansion opportunities that aligned with evolving market conditions and industry trends. The investigation had revealed specific areas where systematic analytical approaches could create sustainable differentiation within Chicago's competitive commercial real estate environment. Robert's analysis identified opportunities for establishing Morrison Properties as specialized leader in analytical investment services for institutional clients seeking sophisticated market analysis and strategic property management capabilities. The specialized positioning would leverage the methodical approaches I had developed while creating premium service offerings that could generate substantial consulting revenue alongside traditional property investment returns. The competitive analysis also revealed potential for geographic expansion into secondary markets, where analytical capabilities and systematic investment approaches could provide significant advantages over local competitors who relied primarily on relationship-based business development rather than sophisticated market analysis and strategic planning methodologies. Robert had identified specific markets in the Midwest region where Morrison Properties could establish competitive presence through strategic partnerships with local professionals who possessed market knowledge but lacked the analytical frameworks and systematic investment approaches that had generated success in the Chicago market. The expansion strategy would leverage proven methodologies while adapting to local market conditions and competitive dynamics. The most transformative development during this establishment phase was the formal appointment to the board of directors for the Chicago Commercial Real Estate Council, the premier professional organization representing institutional investors, major developers, and leading property management firms throughout the greater Chicago metropolitan area. The board appointment reflected recognition that my analytical capabilities and strategic thinking qualified me for leadership roles within the industry's most influential professional organizations. The board position provided platform for influencing industry standards and best practices while establishing relationships with Chicago's most accomplished commercial real estate professionals. The leadership role would create opportunities for advancing industry initiatives while building strategic partnerships that could benefit Morrison Properties' continued expansion and development objectives. Board membership also included participation in policy development and regulatory advocacy that would shape the future environment for commercial real estate investment and development throughout the Chicago region. The involvement in industry governance would provide insights into evolving market conditions while creating opportunities for strategic positioning that could provide competitive advantages for Morrison Properties' long-term strategic planning. The board appointment had generated additional recognition within national commercial real estate organizations, resulting in invitations for committee participation and strategic planning roles that would establish my influence beyond the Chicago market into regional and national industry leadership positions. The expanded involvement would provide access to sophisticated market intelligence while creating opportunities for strategic relationship building with institutional investors and major development firms. Simultaneously, the Millennium Commercial Real Estate Syndicate membership had produced immediate opportunities for participation in 3 major development projects that would significantly enhance Morrison Properties' portfolio while establishing involvement in Chicago's most prestigious commercial real estate initiatives. The projects included mixed-use development in the West Loop District, office building renovation in the Financial Center, and residential development in Lincoln Park that would provide substantial returns while demonstrating capability for managing institutional quality investments. The syndicate participation also provided access to proprietary market research and analytical resources that enhanced investment decision-making, while establishing collaborative relationships with other successful professionals who could provide mentorship and strategic guidance for continued business expansion. The learning opportunities would accelerate professional development, while providing frameworks for pursuing more sophisticated investment strategies and development methodologies. 3 pension funds had formalized investment partnership agreements that would provide Morrison Properties with access to substantial capital for major acquisition and development projects, while establishing credentials that supported continued expansion into institutional investment markets. The pension fund relationships represented validation that my analytical capabilities and risk management approaches met institutional standards for fiduciary responsibility and strategic oversight. The institutional partnerships also created opportunities for developing specialized expertise in pension fund investment requirements and regulatory compliance that could generate additional consulting revenue streams, while establishing Morrison Properties as preferred local partner for institutional investors seeking Chicago market exposure through sophisticated property management and strategic development capabilities. Several national real estate investment firms had executed formal partnership agreements where Morrison Properties would provide local market expertise and analytical capabilities for their Chicago expansion strategies. The partnerships provided access to institutional capital and advanced development resources, while establishing relationships that could support geographic expansion beyond the Chicago market into other metropolitan areas where similar analytical approaches could create competitive advantages. The national partnerships included collaboration agreements for office building acquisitions throughout the Midwest region, mixed-use development projects in emerging metropolitan markets, and residential property portfolio expansion that would leverage proven analytical methodologies while adapting to different regional market conditions and competitive environments. The professional transformation had also generated recognition from academic institutions seeking practitioners who could provide real-world expertise for commercial real estate education programs and executive development initiatives. Northwestern University's Kellogg School of Management had extended invitation for guest lecturing in their real estate investment curriculum, while the University of Chicago's Booth School of Business had requested participation in executive education programs focused on analytical investment strategies and sophisticated property management methodologies. The academic involvement would provide additional platform for thought leadership while creating opportunities for recruiting talented individuals who could contribute to Morrison Properties' continued expansion and strategic development. The educational engagement would also establish relationships with academic researchers, whose market analysis and industry studies could provide valuable intelligence for strategic planning and competitive positioning. The systematic transformation from dismissed spouse to recognized industry leader had demonstrated that sophisticated strategic thinking combined with methodical execution could create extraordinary outcomes that exceeded initial objectives, while establishing foundations for continued success and meaningful contribution to professional communities that valued analytical excellence and strategic innovation. The comprehensive accountability measures had achieved their intended results while generating momentum for business development that would provide enduring benefits extending far beyond the resolution of personal betrayal. The quiet competence that had been systematically underestimated was now recognized as genuine expertise that commanded respect and created opportunities for significant achievement within Chicago's most competitive business sectors. The culmination of strategic implementation occurred 6 months after Patricia's devastating Valentine's dinner announcement, marking a comprehensive transformation that established Morrison Properties as a nationally recognized leader in analytical commercial real estate investment, while demonstrating the enduring consequences of systematically underestimating someone whose capabilities extended far beyond surface appearances and social assumptions. The strategic framework had achieved outcomes that exceeded every initial objective while creating sustainable foundations for continued success and meaningful contribution to commercial real estate communities that valued sophisticated analytical thinking and innovative investment methodologies. The woman who had been dismissed as David's supportive spouse had established herself as a respected industry leader whose expertise commanded recognition from institutional investors, major development firms, and academic institutions throughout the United States. Catherine Blackwood's legal strategy had produced settlement outcomes that established important precedent for addressing complex matrimonial cases involving systematic asset manipulation and deliberate deception between spouses. The comprehensive approach to achieving accountability had created frameworks that would benefit other professionals handling similar cases, while ensuring that David and Patricia faced meaningful consequences that reflected the systematic nature of their betrayal and the harm their actions had caused. The legal resolution had also provided foundation for pursuing additional professional sanctions against David through regulatory agencies and professional organizations that maintained ethical standards for technology consulting services. The systematic nature of his deception and the evidence of professional misconduct had resulted in disciplinary actions that would affect his ability to pursue certain client relationships and business opportunities throughout his career. Patricia had faced similar professional consequences through industry organizations and client networks that valued integrity and reliability in luxury service providers. The systematic nature of her participation in family deception had created reputation problems that resulted in significant business losses and reduced her ability to maintain existing client relationships while developing new opportunities within Chicago's competitive interior design market. Marcus Chin's forensic accounting methodologies had been adopted by other professional investigators as template for addressing complex cases of marital asset manipulation and systematic financial deception. The comprehensive approach to documenting hidden transactions and concealed assets had established new standards for matrimonial financial analysis, while providing frameworks that enhanced recovery outcomes for other individuals facing similar betrayal. The forensic investigation had also contributed to regulatory improvements in financial reporting requirements that would make similar asset manipulation more difficult for future perpetrators, while providing enhanced protection for individuals whose spouses attempted to manipulate joint financial arrangements for personal advantage. The systematic documentation had influenced policy development that would benefit other families facing complex financial deception. Marcus's analytical capabilities had also generated consulting opportunities with institutional investors, seeking expertise in complex financial investigation and risk assessment for commercial real estate investments. The sophisticated analytical frameworks developed through forensic investigation provided valuable methodologies for evaluating investment opportunities and identifying potential problems that conventional due diligence might overlook. Jennifer Walsh's communications strategy had established thought leadership positioning that generated recognition within national commercial real estate publications and industry forums, seeking case studies that demonstrated innovative approaches to strategic business development and analytical investment methodologies. The professional transformation narrative had become an exemplary model for converting personal challenges into opportunities for extraordinary business achievement. The communication success had also created opportunities for international recognition, where the systematic approach to building Morrison Properties provided valuable insights for commercial real estate professionals in other markets seeking frameworks for strategic development and competitive positioning. The international interest had resulted in consulting engagements with European and Asian investment firms seeking expertise in United States commercial real estate markets. Jennifer's strategic positioning had also generated recognition from business schools and professional development organizations seeking practitioners who could provide real-world expertise for executive education programs and strategic planning curricula. The educational involvement had established additional revenue streams while creating platforms for continued thought leadership development and industry influence. Robert Martinez's competitive analysis had identified strategic positioning that enabled Morrison Properties to maintain sustainable advantages while pursuing expansion opportunities that aligned with evolving market conditions and industry trends throughout the Midwest region. The systematic analytical approaches had created differentiation that supported premium pricing and enhanced client relationships across multiple commercial real estate sectors. The competitive intelligence capabilities had also generated consulting opportunities with other investment firms, seeking expertise in market analysis and strategic positioning for complex commercial real estate development projects. The analytical frameworks had proven applicable across different market environments and competitive contexts, creating scalable methodologies that could support geographic expansion and business diversification. Robert's investigation techniques had also contributed to industry best practices for competitive analysis and market intelligence gathering that enhanced decision-making for commercial real estate professionals throughout the Chicago business community. The systematic approaches had influenced industry standards while establishing Morrison Properties as innovative leader in analytical investment methodologies. The most significant validation of the comprehensive transformation occurred when Morrison Properties received recognition as Emerging Leader of the Year from the National Commercial Real Estate Investment Association, acknowledging innovative analytical approaches and strategic thinking that had generated exceptional outcomes while contributing to industry advancement and professional development standards. The national recognition reflected assessment by industry peers that the systematic methodologies and analytical frameworks developed through Morrison Properties represented significant contributions to commercial real estate investment practice, while demonstrating replicable approaches that could benefit other professionals pursuing similar strategic objectives in competitive market environments. The award recognition had generated additional opportunities for industry leadership roles within national organizations seeking professionals who possessed demonstrated expertise in analytical investment strategies and innovative business development methodologies. The leadership positions would provide platforms for influencing industry standards while establishing relationships with institutional investors and major development firms throughout the United States. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.